In space, no one can hear you scream, but you still can make a profit, especially if it's based on nostalgia. In this review, we're taking a look at Ravensburger's Alien Fate of the Nostromo, where you take on the crew of the fated Nostromo and try to survive the alien xenomorph that has boarded the ship. If you don't know, this is based on the movie Alien, and as we go on, it should mostly follow the plot with some different things, so first thing I suggest is probably go and watch the movie. It's good. This is a cooperative game where you will take on the role of the crew members moving around trying to complete a number of objectives based on player count in order to reveal the final mission card and complete that before either the morale track goes down to 0 or if you happen to get the final objective where you self-destruct the ship. When it is your turn, you're going to take a number of actions equal to the number here on the player character you decided, and you'll be able to perform the following different actions. First, you can pick up an item or drop an item in your room. If it's one of these, there are little tiles that can be dropped and put on depending on what's happening in the game. But scrap, on the other hand, these little gears here, you can pick it all up at once for one action, storing it for our next possible action, and that's crafting. All these items here, there's a limited number of them, but you can craft them. To know how much scrap you need, the reference card here has everything you need. In fact, is how you know what the items even do. You can, of course, trade if you're in the same space as another player. Maybe they would do better with a certain item, or you need the scrap to craft something. So that's always useful. Finally, if it wasn't obvious, there's moving. For every space you move, it costs an action. Keep in mind that there are some ladders that go to a specific spot that act as if they're adjacent. But be aware, whenever you enter a space with a concealment token that looks like that, you will flip it over. Now, depending on, like in this case, it shows the alien, it will have different reactions. Before we get to that, there can be empty ones. There can be one with just the cat that scares you and lowers your morale. But, like this case, it shows the alien goes to your location, you immediately end your turn, and you must run away 3 spaces. So, for example, I could go 1, 2, 3. Keep in mind, though, wherever you run, if there happen to be another concealment token there, you're going to have to deal with that. You will also go down the morale printed on the token. After you do resolve a concealment token, all revealed ones are going to be taken, shuffled back into the pile with the other ones, where they may be drawn again. One quick final action. Some characters have special actions you can spend your action points on, so keep in mind who you're playing. If you did not reveal an alien during your turn through a concealment token, after you finish your actions, you're going to draw an encounter card. Encounter cards are mostly the alien moving, but they come in these varieties. First off, there are simple ones like this, where like quiet, hunt, and stalk. These have the alien move a number of spaces, as well as harming you if they happen to enter the space with you. As you can see, that one would reduce your morale by 4, being a very significant hit to your win-loss chances. There are also cards like this, which you just follow the directions, usually are bad and involve losing scrap. There could also be some big events like this. This one actually makes the alien disappear and also adds a whole bunch of concealment tokens, so be careful. Quiet, though, is the most common, and in this case, what happens is the alien moves 1. If he happens to move into a space, so always be careful. But then afterwards, you're going to add scrap and a concealment token to a card. So in this case, we'd add 1, 2 to the airlock where it shows down there. You will then repeat this process until you completed these objectives. Objectives are completed as soon as their conditions are met. They usually involve into one of 3 categories. A, everyone meeting up in one room. B, taking an item to a specific room. Or C, dropping off these coolant canisters into a specific room. So not simply just bringing them there, you have to drop them as well. And that usually is a multiple, in this case, 2. Once you've completed all the objectives, the number of objectives changed on player count, you will reveal the final mission. You will read through the instructions. They'll change the setup and some of the rules. They may even add a separate board. So keep in mind that that can change what is valuable. And if you're able to complete that final objective, you have won the game. There is one other thing I want to quickly explain as it's a way to ratchet up the difficulty. But before I do, this is a major story point in the original movie. And yes, I know the movie is old and it is steeped heavily now in pop culture. So you probably already know, but I highly suggest if you actually care at all to watch the movie first so I don't just spoil things for you. It's a good movie, I swear. Anyways, this is Ash. He does not like you. He does not care if you succeed, as you're all just expendable workers to Weyland-Yutani. So if you choose to use him, the way he works is he will move depending on some of the cards that are pulled out from here. And if he moves to the closest scrap or the closest person, if he moves into a place of scrap, he takes all of it, meaning there's going to be less scrap available for you on the board. If he moves into a space with a player, strictly moves into a space, he will steal either one scrap from that player or go down one in morale. If a player ends their turn in a room with him, they're watching him, so he can't really do anything. So sometimes you may be good to have someone pin him down, so to speak. That's basically the pace of the game. It's pretty simple. Move around, try to complete objectives, avoid the alien, and complete the final mission. This game was obviously designed to be that way. In such, it's something that's a bit simpler for you to pick up, but still get the feeling that you're in the world of the first Alien movie. Now, I will say, as someone who is a huge fan of Alien and has seen and played them, there are a lot of Alien games out there. I think partially because it's big and also because Fox at the time, and I guess now Disney, is definitely throwing that license out. So, well, I do feel this stands out from the pack a little bit because most of those other games, I think, really focus on the terror that is the xenomorph and aliens, which is fair. Nothing wrong against that. But a lot of them have things like player elimination or hidden roles. This is very much you're working together. There is no way that you can die. Like, you meet the alien, you just run off. You're not going to be forced to get rid of a face hugger or a chest burster. In fact, I think gore-wise, there really is not much on here in any of the art that I recall. This is really designed to be much more the scary presence of the alien than the horror of what the alien actually does. The simplicity can also be seen in the game mechanics. You're pretty much building, picking up, and moving. There are some unique abilities, but they're not too complicated. If anything, they work well, at least when you're discussing plans to be like, okay, my person can build something better, so I should be the one to go over and get this scrap because I can then build something for cheaper cost. Or, for example, Ripley here, my personal favorite, mostly because her ability is that she can actually move other people, which really gives more options to other people because they're like, oh, I couldn't do what I wanted because I'm a space away. I'm like, well, I can move you the one space you need. And if that's enough to do your turn, that gives us more options. Also, it's Ripley, the best person in the entire Alien franchise. Anyway, the crafting of items, there are a bunch here, and limited is sort of nice, but I never felt like it was enough to make me actually worry like I'm in a horror survival. I will say it is a little annoying to have them all on this card here and to just be like, what does it do again? Let me just check. Like, usually reference cards to remind you of the rules. These are mandatory. You cannot play without the reference cards. Most objectives in the final missions don't feel too complicated to complete, and they usually design them in a way such that it's never impossible to do, such that if there was a final goal that involved a bunch of the coolant canisters, if you happen to spend them, which you can, they'll respawn them on the board, making sure it's still technically feasible to win, depending on if you've lost too much morale or not. That said, going back to how I said there are a lot of Aliens games, while it does stand out a little bit, it's still extremely crowded. And not just in the terms of there are plenty of Alien games for you to choose from. This is a light cooperative game, and that is an extremely, at least to me, seems like bloated marketplace. And it's very hard for you to suggest a game unless it has either a unique mechanic or, in this case, what I'm thinking it's going for is simply to say, this is one for the Alien fans out there. So I guess I shouldn't have worried too much about saying, go watch the movie. You probably watched it at this point. That's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, it's nice to have a game that fits whatever kind of TV show or property you enjoy. But it is a little disappointing when you think about that, and overall you're like, it's same old kind of deal. It's the move around, the difficulty. Most of these cooperative games fall into two ways of becoming difficult. One of them is being either very brutal, in which case I feel that is when they design it so you have to, because you're all working together, you have to really make sure you know what's going on or else the game's going to beat you up. Or randomness. They add Ash, they say for difficulty, but I found Ash was honestly, because the game's so simple, not just another thing to keep an eye out for that wasn't too complicated. It really was this encounter deck because, perfect. Stock right on the top. 3 movement. If that comes out at the worst time, if like we'll be fine. The alien's only going to move like 1 or 2, and then all of a sudden 1, 2, 3. He hits everyone, makes them all run away. Oh no, we hit another token here. Oh, we're safe. But it can become a problem that way. So I feel a lot of the challenge just comes from luck of the draw, so to speak, than rather significantly poor planning. Once you've played it enough, usually you can combat that randomness and know how to deal with it, especially with some of these items that can either repel the alien or even push it back into its nest. So while I had fun being like, oh, I don't have to worry about, we know who the traitor is right off the bat, so I don't have to worry about the rest of the people at the table backstabbing me or being really worried about optimizing an engine. It also sort of fell flat in me in making sure I want to stay hooked and pull this off the shelf over other games that it competes with. Crits and misses for Alien, Fate of Nostromo. Crits. While there are many Alien games out there, I feel this one provides a specific niche of a much more simpler one that is not tied to either extreme survival or player elimination. This makes this an easy game to bring out for those who are fans of the Alien franchise, but maybe don't want to play with the fear that they could die at any moment. I appreciate that the game is designed in a way that it never feels like it's impossible to complete an objective. If you don't have enough scrap will always keep respawning. If something specifically requires coolant tanks, more coolant tanks will spawn on the board. At the very least, you will feel you have a fighting chance. Misses. I mentioned this game stands out from other Alien games as it doesn't feel as punishing, but that isn't enough to truly make it stand out from the rest. It's always going to be hard for it to compare to all the other games that have the Alien franchise and have you decide which one is better. And then on the other front, it's hard for it to stand out against all the cooperative games. Honestly, when comparing it to other lighthearted cooperative games, I don't know if I can recommend this one over others, with the only exception being if you enjoy the Alien franchise. The Ash mechanic was a fun addition thematically, however, in terms of its purpose of adding difficulty, we felt like it didn't really add much. In fact, Ash, as well as any of the final missions, did not feel like where the difficulty actually came in this game, rather a lot more with dealing with the encounter deck and the concealment tokens. Now, there are plenty of card games that have randomness encounters flipped from a deck, but it seemed to be a little bit annoying that in this style of game, there were moments when the game felt unbelievably difficult because certain cards came back to back, or extremely slow because we were having a very easy time, regardless of whether we had Ash there or not. I always found it interesting because I was one who watched Alien at a very young age, way younger than people probably should be watching the movie Alien. But even then, there were Alien toys in the toy section in like your Toys R Us, your Targets, and I bought plenty of them as a kid, or I was very excited to have them along with my Transformers. And even recently, I saw new Alien toys in a Walmart a while back. There is this weird fascination, I guess. I mean, obviously to make money selling toys, but also that there's this creature that kids may enjoy, but if you watch the movies, they are very violent and have themes that are for more mature audiences. And this falls more into the younger age group. I think you could play this with a kid who has not watched the movie, obviously, but they would not be too terrified. I mean, the alien is terrifying looking, but there is no like violence. The alien is, the worst pictures are probably like this. You don't have anything being damaged or ripped apart. And that probably is a plus. I just don't think it's enough, at least for me. If you are maybe someone who has a family and you are a fan of the Alien franchise, maybe this is going to then be more worthwhile for you, as this is something you can take off the shelf without being worried that you're causing nightmares for years to come. As for me, as someone who's played a lot of the Alien games, unfortunately, like, I had a little fun, because I always do when going into an Alien game. It wasn't enough to wow me. I feel bad once there's been enough games in that subtype. It's hard for you to feel like, well, I still have the, in this case, legendary encounters. But for the kind of game that you can take off the shelf and probably not have to worry about expansions, I can see this being one that you enjoy. It's not that it does things really poorly, it's just it doesn't do anything to really make it stand out in a sea that is already very crowded in both its theme and its mechanics. Let me know what your thoughts are on this game. Have you played this game? And if so, have you played other Alien games? Does this rise above all the rest enough that you feel it's worthy to compete against them for shelf space? Or was this something that maybe, like me, you felt a little more flat on? You can let me know in those comments down below. I'd love to hear from you, especially all the fellow Alien fans out there. Even if it's just about Alien, it doesn't even need to be about this board game. Just love to hear from you. But until I read those comments, until then, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and share this with someone if you will, if you think they may enjoy this game. I'm Will, and this has been Roll for Crit.